We are live, inshallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. ربنا اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين آمين. والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. We have just started the introduction to the chapter Calamity Qari'ah. How to read these kind of verses of the Quran or sections of the Quran which are heavily loaded with figurative teachings. In order to approach this topic, which is very crucial to me, as this for me it is so important. Before studying the text, any text, we have to define the text itself. The text claims to be the word, the speech of the creator of the universe. Again, by definition, is the absolute being. By definition, we are not arguing with that. How do we know it is the absolute being? That's what it says. The Quran says, my author is the one who is the creator of the universe. So again, by definition, this absolute being's qualities must be also absolute. So the speech comes from the knowledge of the absolute being, which is the knowledge itself is also infinite. The purpose of the Quran is to instruct the creatures, the human beings, particularly as far as we are concerned, about the reality of creation, about the reality of the existing things out there. So the Quran says, I am going to teach the reality of the creation, the source of the existence of this world, which is not within this world, so cannot be comprehensible within the conditions of this world, but you can understand and confirm that what it refers to is understandable and confirmable within the capacity of human mind, human feelings, human capacity. So your reasoning intellect understands it, but it cannot describe it. with anything like that of the universe. Why? Because it is in the language of the Quran itself, ghaibi, which means not of the nature of this universe. So, the language of the Quran must use a way of describing, teaching, instructing human mind so that the human mind can grasp what the message is talking about. Human mind can grasp what the message is talking about because the message is talking about something not of the nature of the universe, which is called ghaibi. Simply translated unseen, unknown, but it is known. The mind knows it and acknowledges it. Even further, requires it, looks for it. What is the source of existence of this universe is the question asked by human mind. So it is capable of understanding it, but it is not capable of describing it because it doesn't have any physical form which is describable, again, within the conditions of this universe. So the Quran speaks in this way. That's why the language of the Quran is full of figurative speech, analogies, metaphors, similes, a lot of rhetorical tools, means are used in the Quran in order to bring the reality of the ghaib to the vision of human beings so that they can liken it through their experience of the universe. We heavily talked about it last week. Hour and a half, at least, if not more, was spent on this. Now we should continue. For example, the qualities of the Creator cannot be comprehensible with a literal description of it. It is impossible. Literal description is possible only for the things which have physical body. But how can you describe the taste of the food you just ate to a person who has not experienced it? Can you give a physical description of the taste? Impossible. You have to say it is like soury, looks like sauce of a meat or goat meat. Or you have to use figurative language, all sorts of figurative languages. You need to use it. So symbolism is inevitable for the literature of the Quran. Figurative speech is inevitable for the language of the Quran. We made the distinction between do's and don'ts of the verses, which only consisted of 3% of the Quran. That is something exceptions. This is exempted, so it is not our discussion. We don't study in this class those verses because it is not our speciality. There are many people who are experts on the subject, so we leave them to those scholars who extensively talk about it, which is necessary that we have to learn. But in this class, we are emphasizing on the 97% of the Quran, which is about description of human feelings, description of the purpose of the creation of humanity, description of the ghaib, which means the creator, the angelic meaning side of the universe, the message that the creator delivers to human beings through a particular means, a particular man in practical terms, selected by the creator, employed by the creator, instructed by the creator. So we don't know how the speech is delivered from the absolute being to a person. I mean, the general knowledge says Angel Gabriel brought it. What does angel mean? How do we describe angel? We don't know. How the angel takes the revelation from the absolute being? We don't know. But it doesn't matter. The revelation, the result of the sequences of process of revelation is in front of us. We can study it. If we are satisfied with it, we can confirm it. If we are not satisfied with it, we'll come to the conclusion that it is not really conveying me the truth that I can witness, I can confirm, then reject it. Human beings have free will. So don't expect a literal description of the absolute being, literal description of Gabriel's bringing the speech to the prophet. Don't expect that. It is impossible. By definition, it is impossible. It's ghaibi. But you can see the effect of it, result of it, and you can make logical reasoning about it, emotional comprehension of it, apprehending it, and confirm it, whether reject it, that's up to you, according to your free will, whatever you do. The Quran says you better confirm it because it is the truth. It doesn't contradict your reality. But of course, it is not really physically binding the human beings that they have to confirm it. They have the free will, but they have to take the responsibility of the consequence of their choices. Everybody is free, but I am not free not to take the consequence of my choice. Of course, I can harm a person, but it doesn't mean that I am not responsible of my choice. Of course I am, but I can do that, and some people do it. We know in practical senses. Most of the people don't. That's up to them. So this symbolic teaching covers these kind of ghaibi matters narrated by the Quran, uh, employing the prophet, mission of the prophet, the existence of another creation, resurrection, which is called, with a simple language, the hereafter, another creation, completely different, that we didn't have any experience of it. So these matters, or the consequence of our human choices, which is reward, punishment, or establishing the final, complete, full judgment after the resurrection. Partial judgment is experienced here, but full judgment, final judgment, executed by the Creator Himself, is going to be taken in the new creation. We don't know full judgment because it is absolute. We don't know the next creation, which we have not experienced it. If we didn't experience something, we don't know. We made a lot of demonstrations last week about it, how we don't know if we didn't know the physical appearance of the thing, so that we have to use some sort of rhetorical means. So
Brother
which
Lee.
is,
Okay.
sorry,
Your voice was gone for a moment, but now it's back.
okay, thank you for, yes, yeah, reminding me, yeah. The rhetorical devices uh, include something. For example, we have to understand there is a verse in the Quran in chapter Al Imran, the third chapter of the Quran, Mus'haf actually, third chapter of the Mus'haf, Al Imran. So it says there are mutashabihat, there are muhkamat. It means well established verses that you cannot interpret, but mutashabihat, uh, mm, how do they translate it? Mutashabih. I don't know. There's a common way of translating it. Something made analogies between things, or metaphoric teachings, or
Allegorical?
allegories. Yes, allegories. Thank you very much. It is the main, the very common word used here, allegorical. And no one knows, that is very important here to say that if someone has a bad intention, they go and interpret the allegorical teachings of the Quran in a way that according to their like. How do they like it? But it doesn't mean that allegorical teachings of the Quran should not be understood with a good intention. But final meanings of the allegorical teachings of the verses is known to God. What does it mean? Human beings can never ever reach the bottom of the absolute knowledge. Why? We cannot reach absolute, infinite. If we reached the last point of the infinite, which is by definition contradictory, it means we grasp the absolute, infinite. If something is grasped, it means it is not infinite. It is again contradictory. I mean, some sort of self-contradictory statement. Okay, so it is correct that, for example, how can I know the absolute meaning of what absolute power is? Impossible. So I cannot know the final meaning of the power of the Creator. I cannot know, but I can use some other metaphorical devices, rhetorical devices, to make a comparison between, for example, the power of an ant compared to the power of a lion, for example. There are degrees. So you can imagine the power of the energy within the atom again. It is much bigger, much bigger, much bigger. What am I doing here? I am using the experienced object in order to come to a conclusion about the limit, uh, infinity of the power. Goes layers and layers and layers on uh, of powers, infinitum. That infinite power can only belong to the creator of the universe, by definition, the absolute being. If the creator was not absolute, it is impossible for human mind to explain how this universe came into reality that I am experiencing, how it is organized, how it is taken care of in the perfect order, and how it is continuously changed. And every particle of the universe is taken care of individually at the same time. If the power was not infinite, this universe cannot be possible to exist. That is human mind's conclusion. So the power must be infinite so that nothing can prevent this infinite power from doing something while manifesting itself somewhere else at the same time with the infinite uh, uh, unlimited easiness. For example, you see the universe is continuously changing and there's no difficulty in changing. And everything is perfectly under control, and which is called by human beings the order of the universe. Order of the universe does not have an external existence by itself, the order, but it is observed. It is observed. For example, you enter into a room. What you see, the furniture is put in order. But if you take the furniture, the objects of the furniture, where is the order? There's no order left. The order is human conception. It is the concept that human beings describe the, the setting of the furniture in the house, which is called order, but there is no externally existing order. So uh, sometimes people may not be aware of what they say. This is the order of the universe, how it works, as if the order of the universe is an agent working in the universe. Again, it is uh, contradicting. Why? There is no such thing which arranges and which physically active so that does something. This understanding, this notion goes to the word nature or natural causes. There is no substance which is called within the universe natural cause, a natural cause. There is no such thing within the universe. But we observe the events coming into existence in an order, and this is described, that is the nature. There is a law, which means there is no law. There is a principle in which the universe is realized. Universe exists. So again, we cannot describe order, we cannot describe nature, we cannot describe natural causes, but we name the things. We name the things how they are coming into existence or how they are brought into existence. There is a consistency in coming into the existence of the objects. This consistency can be observed and is observed by human beings, and this is called order. So we can only understand the order in a descriptive way. We cannot really describe the nature of the order at all, as we cannot describe the nature of taste, nature of the meaning that we extract from a text or from a speech. We cannot describe the meaning, but we can grasp it, we can confirm it, it exists. So, müteşabihat, those allegorical verses, uses the metaphorical devices in order to explain how the ghaib, unknown or non-observable, but these are not really good translations. The word which is, I would say, not of the nature of the universe, created being. That's the best description I could come up with. Anything which is not according to the nature or like the nature of the created beings is called ghaib. For example, the action is in front of us, but the actor, which is the universe, but the actor is not known. For example, when I read a book, I see the meaning there, but I don't see the author in the book. But I conclude easily that the author, this book, which carries a meaning to me, has a conscious, knowledgeable author. Did I see the author? No. Do I need to see the author? No. Just I am absolutely sure there is an author because the paper and the ink itself, themselves, cannot produce meaning. Meaning can only be produced by a conscious being. So this relationship between physical objects and the descriptive verses, the sentences of the Quran, mostly are mutashabihat, allegorical teachings. And allegorical teachings can be interpreted by anyone in any way they like, but there must be a rule, there is a rule, but people may not obey the rule, may obey the rule, may not obey the rule. That is up to them, according to their choices. If they follow their own egotistic ambitions, they interpret it in order to fit into their egoistic ambitions. Will it be right? According to me, no. But according to that person, that is how I did it. Is there any rule for it? Yes, there are four rules, but people don't have to follow it because it is a personal responsibility. The rules are mostly driven from the grammatic structure of the language, the rhetoric structure of the language, the Quranic language, and also uh, meaning of the word. You cannot say the meaning of the word this or that arbitrarily. It is a language, it carries a certain meaning, and this meaning must be understood within the rules of the grammatic uh, structure. So, but we cannot really make people follow the rule. For example, is there an constitution in America, for example? Yes, there is. Law, yes. Court, yes. Judges, yes. There are judges, courts, etc. Is there any prison as well? Is there some prisons as well? Yes, there are. Okay. What happens? The people are free to follow the law or not. When they don't follow, of course, they are taken to the court and put in the prison if they contradict the law. That is how human experience demonstrates this reality. So when we interpret the verses arbitrarily without following and respecting the purpose of the speech according to my own desire, for example, a very simple example for those people who live in America, so that look at everywhere is the same, but look at here, there is a, for example, a no parking sign. Can I park my car there? Yes, I can, but I get the ticket. I have to pay for it. So, uh, I can say that you cannot park here, but that sign says you shouldn't park here. You can, but also you can uh, take the responsibility. Of course, you have to pay for the ticket. So that is how it works. Exactly the same way. You can interpret the mutashabihat allegorical teachings of the Quran in any way you like, but you will take the responsibility for the result of your interpretations, right or wrong, with a good intention or bad intention. But in any case, no one can claim the ultimate, final content of the mutashabihat or allegorical, no one. But they have to say, according to me, this allegory means this, according to me, everybody. The great commentators on the Quran, the great scholars, they devoted their life to understanding the Quran, 50, 60 years of their lives, cannot say this is the final meaning of the allegorical teachings of the Quran, which is everywhere in the Quran, almost everywhere, 97%, according to scholars' description of the Quran. So that is inevitable. We have to understand that. So, which
Brother
kind
Ali,
of, yeah,
one question. Your example about the no parking, how do you explain that? I don't think there's any, how do you explain the arbitrary interpretation?
yeah, I said no parking is, for example, I say, this is for, let's say, for the people who are disabled, for the people who are not in a hurry, but I am in a hurry. For example, I interpret it. And I parked my car there. But no parking is not a metaphorical, mutashabihat, allegorical teaching. It was just an example. About this example is about how can I arbitrarily interpret anything. I am free. My free will acts in a free way. It wasn't an allegorical teaching, allegorical sentence. No parking is a muhkamat. According to law, no parking. This it. But we said we don't study the muhkamat words, which are very limited in the Quran. But we study belief aspect of the teachings of the Quran. Belief aspect, by definition, is related to ghaib. Yeah, it was a good question. So the people may say, "Oh, you cannot interpret. It's obvious, isn't it?" But it is just an example. Example for the freedom of human choice, not freedom of, not the example of allegorical teachings. I hope it is clear. So it is good to ask these questions. So in your mind, you may say, no, it is not really interpreted in any way. It is obvious. I'm not talking about that side of it that we will study now. The rhetorics work in one way, not the other, in only one way, especially the similes and metaphors. Right. Do we have more questions about it so far? So everybody is responsible according to their capacity to interpret these allegorical teachings of the Quran or these rhetorical devices employed in the Quran. But it is better to take some sort of training. For example, there must be, I know, one person among us who took English literature. Uh, She was a student in my college. She is still here, yes, I know. Yeah, I don't want to finger point to her, but uh, she took a class about English literature. Why did you take that? Why don't you just interpret the pieces of literature in English as you like it? No, it is a discipline. You have to study under the instructions of somebody who has studied before you and accumulated the knowledge about it and has some sort of experience before you had. He learned from somebody else as well. This is how the human knowledge or information really improves like the snowball effect. As it falls down, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why you know that this technology that nowadays we are using is the result of previous accumulation of the human endeavors. So we have to utilize the experts' experience and learn from them. And if you want, we can, if anybody wants, we should apply it ourselves. But if you don't take the course in literature and try to interpret a piece of literature in English, you will just say something, maybe the experts on the subject will laugh at it. It has nothing to do with that. You have to take it. Every discipline has its own vocabulary, have its own principles, rules. So trying to understand the Quran needs also some sort of training. According to your level of training, you can exercise, but never claim that this is the ultimate meaning. Impossible. But that is within my capacity. I understood in this way, but don't claim that this is the best. You can. No one can, including myself. Not the you cannot claim that, but according to our own capacity, we try. So, shall we go some devices, rhetorical devices, everywhere in the Quran, actually all of them. So, I went to very simple, easy way of, I'm not a literature guy at all. I haven't taken literature course in English. So I am just using this very simple internet facilities to get the definition of it, written by experts. I don't know how true they are, but at least gives a general understanding of what we are talking about. Before going into listing the metaphorical or rhetorical devices, we are going to do only the major ones, not the really subdivisions of, there are maybe more than 100 devices actually can be employed in a literature, piece of any literature. And in the Quran, every kind of really rhetorical devices are employed. It is full of everywhere. So before going in, I'm waiting for your questions, comments. Let's see if there is any comment in the chat box. No, there is not. Okay. So you are just listening, right? I am just copy pasting from this this moment onwards. I am just copy pasting from internet. So the first one I have chosen analogy. No, metaphor. Metaphor is described as follows: a thing regarded as representative or symbolic of something else, especially something abstract. Oh, that's very Quranic, because the Quranic concepts are, but when we say Quranic concepts, we are talking about 97% of the teachings of the Quran, which is related to human training, human morality, human understanding of ghaib, and the responsibility before ghaib. Understanding, comprehending the ghaib, and then really coming to the conclusion whether it is true or not. So this is abstract things. For example, God as a concept is an abstract concept. We cannot really make it in physical form. So demonstrate it in physical form. Angel, we cannot demonstrate it in the physical form. Believe in the hereafter, next creation. We cannot, because there is no example of it. So the messengership, the difference between the person messenger and his being the messenger of God, receiving the message from the Creator. We cannot describe it in physical forms. The speech of God, we cannot describe in physical forms. The treatment, the final judgment will be established in the next creation. God will prevail everything there directly without giving the freedom to human will. Now, there we cannot make decision anymore. This is the final decision given. Accordingly, we will be treated and we will freely enjoy what is given to us, not an option to choose between right and wrong. No. For example, that's one example. Hell is like a prison or deprivation from God's mercy, etc. That's why hell is described in this way. Everybody will be left to his own device apart from God. Okay, whatever you want, create yourself the food you need, the water you need, the light you need. Okay, go. Of course, the causes that we worshipped instead of God cannot be the source of existence of anything. They are created beings. The matter, the earth, for example, the soil, is a created being, obeys the order of creation. Light, a created being, obeys the order of the creation. Water is a created being, obeys the order of the universe, the will of the creator. They cannot act on their own. So if God doesn't authorize them to produce the fruit, can they produce the fruit by themselves? Okay, go and experience it in this land. I am not going to give any authority to them. Here is the earth and produce the water, produce the plant or whatever the food you need. No. So, or this is the prison. Within the prison, you have the free will to go from one corner to another corner, but you don't have the, you cannot have the choice to get out of the prison because you are condemned to prison. That's what the result of your own choice. You said, I am the product of nature. Here it is the nature. Okay, go ahead. They can give you something without the authorization of God or arrangement of God. They themselves cannot exist. Only God's will makes them produce something. That's the order of God, established order of the universe established by God. So that is the description of it. In paradise also, you can enjoy everything with your free will, but you cannot choose the denial, rejection, or bad options, evil. That is limited there. But in this world, everything is mixed. You can choose a way which represents hell, another way which represents paradise. You can go back and forth. That is the freedom which is given to human will, human volition. So that is the description of the hereafter presented to us in the Quran. So the metaphor is an abstract thing or symbolically represented by a thing, another thing. We will take an example of it to understand. A metaphor is a comparison which is not literally true, but it's a comparison which is not literally true. It suggests what something is like by comparing it with something else with similar characteristics. For example, someone has a heart of gold. Everybody knows that gold is a metal. Heart is something biological, living, meat. What does it mean? Gold is very precious, so we use it, or the metaphor uses it, very, very pure heart, it means. But you cannot describe purity. Purity is a qualification. It is something abstract, like the order, like causes, like nature, the people call. These are abstract things. They cannot have physical existence. But this is how human beings describe the quality of the objects. That's why when somebody says if someone has a heart of gold, it means this person is making a metaphor in order to let us know that this person has a pure heart, not spoiled or soiled heart, pure good heart, it means. Now, again, if anybody has any question, they can ask. Analogy, the second, the second, third, doesn't matter the number, but in other rhetorical devices, analogy. Now, the definition of it is this: a comparison between two things, typically for the purpose of explanation or clarification, a process of arguing from similarity in known respects to similarity in other respects, usually unknowable things like ghaib. A thing which is comparable to something else in significant respects. For example, Jane has a voice of velvet. Now, velvet is a metal, the fabric. Voice is completely different, but we know that it is just an analogy. Velvet is smooth. When you touch your hand, it is so soft. So it means something very soft, smooth, not harsh. It comes to human ear with a sweet taste. That's what we can only explain this by using analogy. Or, for example, shoe is to foot as tire is to wheel. Tire is to wheel. So without tire, we know that. You understand better than I do. There is no need to spend time. This kind of rhetorical devices are heavily used in the Quran. I even dare say that everywhere in the Quran. So we cannot really open the dictionary and look at the meaning of the word and try to understand the Quran without bearing in mind these rhetorical devices, how they are employed there. So it needs a little bit training. We have to watch out for ourselves. So at least if we haven't taken any training how to interpret these teachings of the Quran, the allegorical teachings of the Quran, then at least we have to say, look, I feel that this verse is talking about something like this, especially the chapter we are going to read, the Calamity, the Qari'ah. This chapter is everywhere. It's rhetoric. Everything is rhetoric, with no almost exception. Quran is full of this, full of this. I wouldn't dare even give a percentage for it. 97% of the Quran, which deals with belief in ghaib matters, or moral, ethical matters, training human ruh, human spirit, human soul. These are all abstract notions. So what we have to do, 97% of the Quran consists of analogy, allegory, parables, euphemisms, everything, not the literal meaning at all. That's what we have to bear in mind. Okay, let's come to another one, allegory. A story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, especially a moral or political one. So, actually, to translate the mutashabihat as allegorical teachings of the Quran is very limited. I understand now by now looking at the definition of allegory is very limited. No, it is very limited, very narrow. There must be another way of translating this word, but I am not the expert on it. So experts should take it seriously. But maybe you can say any means of rhetorical devices explained the Quran, which explains the abstract notions by using all sorts of different kinds of rhetorical devices, is called mutashabihat. So, do we understand that no one can, that is important, it came to my mind that it needs to be emphasized. No one can get the ultimate, final meaning of it because it is ghaib, it is absolute. No human being can reach the end of the absolute. By definition, absolute has no end. It is infinite. So that is why the Quran says no one can get the final meaning. Only God knows it. It means absolute knows what absolute is. And human beings are not absolute. So, for example, there is an example here. Pilgrim's progress is, it means the Hajj. Pilgrim is Haji. They call it Hajj. The person who goes to Hajj, his progress is an allegory of the spiritual journey, which is quite a good example. I liked it actually. The Hajj is not a physical journey, but while body is doing the physical journey, in fact, we are expected to be aware that this is a spiritual journey. Now, so I have to concentrate the spiritual side of this actions that are required to be done during Hajj. My spirit must be busy with it, but my body must follow the physical rules. Physical rules are within the category of muhkamat. Now, they are not to be interpreted. For example, you go to, let's say, Mount Mina in Mecca. Yeah, you cannot say Mount Mina, my body can it doesn't have to go there. I can go there by imagination, by my own spiritual journey. No, no, no. Your body must be there while you are doing this action with your body. Your spirit must go through a spiritual progress. That is what the meaning of Hajj is. So it is an allegory. So we shouldn't reduce that Hajj is only a spiritual journey. No, human beings consists of what? We are humanity consists of body and spirit, soul. So I have to go on a spiritual journey through my spirit. And my body has to go through a physical journey through my body. So that is why we live together. For example, I want to be pleased with God. I am hungry. I ask God to give me food, and food is there. I eat it. After I eat it, I say, my God is so merciful. So without eating, my body suffers. I say my spirit is very much satisfied with God's mercy. You have not experienced it here in physical form, bodily. So that is why all the rhetorical devices must be presented to me in a kind of bodily description that my mind can comprehend it. That is exactly how human nature is constructed. So that is allegory. So parable. Oh, Quran is full of parable. Quran is full of allegories, but the Quran is full of all rhetorical means. So parable is a simple story used to illustrate a moral or spiritual lesson. Parable illustrates one or more instructive lessons or principles, usually uses metaphorical analogy by using human characters. Quran is full of parables or tamthilat or kinayat in the language of the Quran. They are all parables. So, figurative language. For example, time is money. What does it mean? Time is not money. Time is time, money is money. But we know that time is money is a figurative language, is very precious. For example, that's what this civilization describes it. He has a heart of stone. It is impossible to have the physical heart of stone. Just understand that it means completely different. It's a figurative language. In the Quran also, this kind of figurative language is heavily employed, used. America is a melting pot. We understand what it means, but it is not a pot really, but it functions like a melting pot. You are my sunshine. You understand what it means, especially young people. So you got it, figurative language. Euphemism. Euphemism, a mild, indirect, or vague term that often substitutes a harsh, blunt, or offensive term. Example, letting you go instead of firing you. I will let you go. It means I'll fire you from your position. Okay, passed away. Everybody uses this passed away. We know that. Instead of saying died, we say passed away. It is all euphemisms. In the Quran also, quite a lot of example of it. Hyperbole. Hyperbole, I don't know how you pronounce it, hyperbole or hyperbole. I hear some people say hyperbole. I don't know which one is correct, maybe both. Uses exaggeration for emphasis of effect, or emphasis or effect. That is also hyperbole is extremely widely used in the Quran. Why? In order to draw the attention and shake him, hey, be careful. You just don't take notice of the purpose of your existence. You know the result of your choices, your decisions, your concerns. You are responsible for it. So the price you will pay is huge. You cannot afford it. You cannot really stand it. That's why the description of fire, description of paradises, maybe paradise is not hyperbole, but because of other reasons, the mercy of God increases it. But hell is what human beings exactly deserves, no more, no less, unless it is asked for forgiveness. Otherwise, here, of course, forgiveness doesn't work in the hereafter, it is too late. Next creation. So in this world, unless it is asked or the person asks for forgiveness and repents for it, then, or as the Quran describes, the punishment will be for one crime for one punishment. But paradise, the reward will be multiplied by, goes into infinitum because God's mercy is infinite. So especially hyperbole is heavily used to describe the heaven describe hell in the Quran. For example, I have told you to stop 1,000 times. You remember this kind of things in the Quran? A day in the uh, in the eye of God is 50,000 years. Now it is, what does it mean? Not exactly 50,000 years, it's equal to a day. No, in other verses, 1,000. Yeah, and for the lifespan of Noah, I says 1,000 years, but minus 50, but the words are different. That one of them is Senate, the other one is Ram, so they refer something else at the same time, but 1,000 is a long life. Only a few portion of it was a pleasant life. The rest is really very painful life for Noah. The word Seneh is a painful lifespan, and Am is a pleasant lifespan. That's why 50 years is a less. He really enjoyed his life in a very minimum amount, but most of his life was busy with communicating the message to the people, and the people kept opposing him, torturing him, threatening him, full of pain. So he fulfilled his message. That's what the Quran says, 1,000 years. Not exactly 1,000, not 1,001 or 999. No, 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 no. It is the way how the Quran speaks. So hyperbole is used there. Another example is that must have cost you $1 billion. It means very expensive. Yeah, I could do this forever. It is impossible. Human beings cannot live forever. It is obvious that it's hyperbole. So the Quran is also replete of these kind of examples. Oh, even this is very heavily used in the Quran. Personification. Oh God, everywhere almost. Personification gives human qualities to non-living things or ideas. The flowers nodded, as if like human beings, nodded, using the head, said, oh, yeah, yeah. The snowflakes danced like a human being. No, but we know what it means. So the thunder grumbled. The Quran is full of this. Those people, those of you, I'm sure all of you, read the Quran. This kind of language is everywhere in the Quran. Personification. The wind, the wind howled. It was like it would be. You know that what it means. Simile. Okay. Simile. Simile is a comparison between two unlike things using the words like or as. As slippery as an eel. Huh. That is simile. So again, like peas in a pot, as blind as a bat. It again, simile, the rhetorical device, simile is used here. Eats like a pig. You know that, what it means with no limit. Now, idiom is a figure of speech that means something different than a literal translation of the words would lead one to believe. It's raining cats and dogs. It means, oh man, everything is coming down as if so heavy rain. So, stabbed in the back, it means somebody mistreated another person. But stabbed in the back without knowing, from behind. It means without the knowledge of the person. Kill two birds with one stone. We understood what it means. Yeah. Piece of cake. It is a piece of cake for me. It was very sweet eating like, oh, I can do it easily. It means, but it's a piece of cake, for example. These are idioms. Again, lots of Arabic idioms, which is used in Arabic language, is employed in the Quran as well. Now, illusion is when a piece of writing tries to hint at a person, place, thing, literature, or art. Now, an illusion is when we hint at something and expect the other person to understand what we are referencing. For example, don't act like a Romeo in front of her. You know this, using this literature piece in order to describe the attitude of a man. Different kinds of illusions, for example, historical illusions, an illusion to a historical event or historical period. So mythological illusions, an illusion to a mythological figure or story, and the literary illusions, an illusion to a literary text or figure. So again, this is not as much, but you can see this rhetorical device is also used in the Quran. Metonymy, again, I mean, it is very important to understand this metonymy as well. There are some things that in the Quran, in some verses, this metonymy is used as much as I understand, and some people also say that, but majority of the people try to understand them in literal senses, and they messed up to me. I mean, no one can accept now in the 21st century. So metonymy means a change of name as a literary device. It is a way of replacing one object or idea with something related to it instead of stating what is. For example, Hollywood is obsessed with the new diet. What does it mean? Hollywood is the name of a place, as far as I know, in California somewhere. So But it means what? The meaning of this statement is not that the place itself has any obsession, of course, it is obvious, but instead refers to the celebrities and wannabe celebrities, yeah, for people, not me, wannabe, who reside there. So, for example, Wall Street for the financial sector, for example, Wall Street is a street. It is not where the money exchanges and stocks are, or the casino, money casinos there. It's a kind of another trick in the world going on. And for example, Washington. Washington, what does it mean? For the United States government or capital. Okay, the big house means refers to prison. Stuffed shirts means people in position of authority, especially in a business setting. So the crown, it means the royal person. And in the Quran, Pharaoh's place is a metonymy. Sorry, there was an, I think, voice. Am I wrong? If anybody wants to say anything, please go ahead. Okay, we should hurry actually. Okay, for example, Pharaoh's palace is a metonymy. We shouldn't look for a place for a palace. Yeah. Abraham's castle is a metonymy. And yeah, so that it is transparent as a metaphor to the message of Abraham, who was so clear to understand what he is referring to, the people there. Nothing is hidden for the truth. That represents this Abraham's palace, for example. He invited the queen of Sheba to his palace, means really his message. Paradox. When used as a literary device, as a paradox is the juxtaposition of a set of seemingly contradictory concepts that reveal a hidden or unexpected truth. The paradox may be hard or even impossible to believe, yet usually the contradiction can be reconciled if the reader thinks about the juxtaposition more deeply. For example, I know one thing that I know nothing. For example, this is the typical paradox, Socrates paradox. So the Plato narrates it. It's weird not to be weird. It is, I think, a word taken from a song of John Lennon. Whatever you do will be insignificant at a small bit. This is very insignificant, but it is very important that you do it. Now, you do it. That is Gandhi's saying. This is paradox, Gandhi's paradox. So, elliptic, also known informally as ... is a series of usually 3 dots that indicates an intentional omission of a word, sentence, or whole section from the text without altering its original meaning. This elliptic is employed in almost all the prophetic stories. It is a very important point that we have to understand. So suddenly story changes from one phase into completely another phase. That is obvious that some pieces, maybe sometimes the big chunk of piece is omitted because it is not the point of the Quran to narrate the story, but convey us the message in this story. So wherever the message is possible to be conveyed, the human beings need, then it is mentioned. That is why we have to notice that all the prophetic narration stories are full of elliptics. Full of elliptics. We have to be aware of it. Concise suggests the removal of all that is superfluous or elaborative. There is no need to mention these kind of things. Again, concise teaching is the 100% of the Quran is based on concise teaching, including the laws, very concise. There is no superfluous extra languages used at all, as concise as possible for human beings to understand. So, tropic. Uh, Phrases are used with a non-literal or figurative meaning, such as a metaphor. In Arabic, for example, in Arabic, sabr, vesperu, which means patience. Now, in fact, this word means the rope which bind this with the rope, the tent poles to each other and the covering material of the tent that keeps the tent upright. Or another usage of the sabr is a rope which ties an animal which is hungry. So the animal wants to go there, but you keep the animal back from its food for any reason, not to torture, of course. This is called sabr, pulling back the animal, tying the animal from going or straying away somewhere. So another meaning of tropic, again, the sabr is to keep a person who owes some money to someone, to make him until he takes an oath that he will pay it back, guaranteeing the back. And then when you keep this person tying it and not letting him go or her go, this is called sabr. Again, that is how the notion of patience represents in the language. So you just how do you say, keep the reins of your anger, your hatred, keep it so that it will go and do something dangerous and harmful. That is sabr. Okay, that's why this tropic language is used in order to explain what really sabr is, the word. So symbolism is a literary device that uses symbols, be the words, people, marks, or locations, or abstract ideas, to represent something beyond the literal meaning. Symbolic meaning, we keep saying that. The concept of symbolism is not confined to works of literature. For example, symbols inhabit every corner of our daily life. Symbol. We most of the time use symbolic language. Anyways, we know that uh, that is how we practice it. The Quran also uses it. So, I mean, these are the examples of rhetorical devices I have taken, main examples that we can find in the Quran, almost widely used everywhere in the Quran. So what we get from it, we should bear in mind that Quran is a literature piece of literature. So we cannot read a poem in its literal language. Impossible. Though, of course, poem is an emotional description of it, but Quran is emotional, but at the same time, mostly the description of ghaib. Again, not physically possible to understand or to comprehend. So Quran must use these rhetoric devices. It is inevitable. Otherwise, it cannot present us ghaib. We have to appreciate it. Now, if it is the case, this is a very important point. We have just almost less than 10 minutes. let's discuss this matter also, but this is very important. Now, if it is the case, so all the rhetorical devices are subject to interpretations. It is impossible to avoid it because they always refer to something else. So you have to interpret it. And of course, we touched upon it last week a little bit. So everybody can interpret these rhetorical devices as they want. We said at the beginning of today as well, today's discussion as well, not arbitrarily, but of course human free will is free. So, but it shouldn't be arbitrarily. That is why people take literature classes, English literature, French literature, Arabic literature classes. Why? There are rules how to interpret these literature pieces. We have to learn it, but even you learn it, still you can interpret it. For example, write a poem and uh, distribute it to 100 literature students, and then the teacher asks them to write what you understood from this poem. 100% of 100 people comes up with 100 different interpretations, similar, close to each other, completely different, but they take the meaning from this literature somehow around the same things, though they go this way or another way. So what does it mean? I will give you an example. That is what I consider. For example, I have $1, you have $1 million. Is there any difference? Can anybody communicate with me quickly, please? Be just kind enough to contribute to the conversation, interactive conversation. Somebody, come on, go ahead.
Quantity is different.
Okay, so I have $1, you have $1 million. Is there any difference? Quickly.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you said yes. What is the difference?
You can buy more than I can if
No,
you
no, no,
have.
no.
No,
Not the
no.
result.
Okay.
No, not the result. I'm being very concise here because we don't have much time. So, not the result of what are you going to do? No, $1, $1 million. What is the difference in between?
$1 million minus $1.
No. It's not a trick. It is not a trick question at all.
Quantity, the amount.
No,
Is it
one
990?
person. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
is it 999,999 thousands of dollars?
Yes, but what is the common point in them? The
That it's
number is different.
yeah, it's different.
So the common point, common denomination.
Number, the amount.
Sorry?
The number amount.
No. The common denomination between $1 and $1 million. Common point in them, not difference. The difference is in number.
Is
But
it the money?
no, both of them are dollars.
It's their value.
Dollars. Both of them
One
are
over a
dollars.
million.
Sorry?
1 over a million.
No. Both of them are dollars. One of them is $1. The other one is $1 million.
1 to 10. 1 to 1.
No,
Yeah.
we are not studying mathematics. We are studying literature. Okay. Thank you for trying your best. So, one of them, both of them are dollars. Yeah, they have dollar. $1, $1 million. Common denomination is dollar. But what changes? What changes? Number of dollars. So, value-wise, dollar has the same value, $1, $1. But one guy has $1, the other one guy has from the same value 1 million times more. Did I make my point clear? No.
Explain again.
Okay, very simple. I'm not doing any trick at all. There is no trick in it. So I have $1, you have 1 million. It means we have a valuable piece. I have one of them. You have 1 million of the same piece. Right?
So you are defining a unit.
Sorry, I am defining the common point. What do I mean by this? I think it is very easy to understand, but I'm making it difficult, I think, as if I'm making a trick here. Or no trick at all, just very simple example. I interpreted one phrase according to my good intention. I came up this very little amount of comprehension of what it refers to. The other expert is, or has tried to interpret this, but the same thing, same value, same valuable message in this rhetoric or rhetorical explanation in any using any kind of metaphorical devices. I got a little bit of it. The other person got larger amount. But if my intention is good, I will get a small amount. Like, for example, let's say Quranic language is like an ocean. Again, we are using this analogy, like an ocean, okay, making it similar between endless knowledge and endless water. So, although ocean is limited, but example, of course, just example. So I get one small cup according to my capacity to interpret it. The other one got a huge tank of water out of the ocean. So learned more, but the water I have and the water this guy has in amount is different, but benefit is in the core of it. Mine is a little bit, but his is 1 million times more. But what is important that I have $1, you have more number of the same dollar. So whoever interprets the Quran with a good intention gets the gist of the message, but the amount of the message he gets is maybe limited, maybe larger than, depending on my capacity. Depending on my capacity. So we should not worry about different interpretations of this rhetorical means. We have to look at our intention. Are we trying to divert the meaning with a bad intention or with a good intention? Depends on my attitude. Depends on my attitude. I don't know whether I could present it or not. In this example, it may not work, I don't know. So the amount of the matter, the understanding is important, but not really, it should put me off from trying to understand the Quran, benefiting from the Quran. But at the same time, I should be aware of my limitations. Then I could get only this much. I cannot claim that my understanding is or represents the absolute meaning of the verse. No one can claim it. Everybody can get according to the capacity of his understanding the message. But try to increase it, try to learn more how to benefit from it. So the ocean is endless, the knowledge is endless, but it should not intimidate us that we haven't taken a long course of 20 years of Arabic literature and then I can benefit from the Quran. No, as much as I can. The Quran speaks to every level of people. Ocean is ready for anybody, whatever the capacity of the cup contains, content of the cup is, ocean is ready to give water to these people. So take your cup, go to the ocean, get as much as your cup contains. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to enlarge the content of my cup. I shouldn't learn more and more and increase my knowledge of how to benefit from the Quran. No, I should try, but at the same time, I should not be frustrated because of the limitations of my cup, because at the end of the day, everybody's cup is limited. But one of them is a huge tank, the other one is as small as a cup of coffee, a coffee cup. Sorry. So go and take it. Ocean is so generous, gives you something. That means it should not frustrate us that all these different kinds of rhetorical devices are employed in the Quran. So really, I am not a man of or the person of literature. I cannot benefit from the Quran. I have no idea of literature. No, Quran says, I speak to anyone who reasons. It means tries to benefit from it, uses what he uses his human capacity, intellect. So Quran speaks to human beings. You and I are human beings. We should try to benefit from it, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't receive any instruction, any teachings, any education about how to benefit from the Quran. We have to have a good intention and a balanced attitude towards the Quran. That's what I can share today with you. If you have further questions, I will be very happy. Let me see, is there anything in the chat box? I have a question. Somebody said, Asha Khalid, I have a question. Some. Number one, same thing, money. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, same thing, money. It means same thing, benefiting from the Quran with a good intention. Your God is speaking to you. Try to benefit from it, but do not shun away from receiving further educations, enlarging the content of your cup, inshallah. Any further questions, concerns? Otherwise, we should stop here. The time is up a little bit, even passing. So passing the time. Anyone? Anything? Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Inshallah, next week we will jump into studying the chapter